Okay, so welcome to Grande Avenue with Miguel Ortega. I am Miguel Ortega, and this is your Westside Insurgency sessions with Scott Egan, my friend here coming to you from Barrio Hollywood. I'm in an undisclosed Westside location. Uh, I don't want to give Scott's address either, but
Those
he's
people know
he's
where it is anyway.
he's a big guy. He can defend himself.
All my enemies know where I live.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Good morning to you.
Good morning, man. Good morning. So, thank you so much for being on the program. It may not feel like it, Scott. It may not feel like it, but we got our shit together.
No, it doesn't feel like it.
Well, I was just saying before off camera, saying that, you as a musician, I mean, people don't realize how much is into the whole thing, the whole music production, the loading out from your house into your truck or van, and then getting to the place, and then loading out, the taking the XLRs out, and then putting all those heavy ass speakers out, and then you got to test, and then
I
you got to
know
perform.
we need a road crew. We need a road
Right,
crew. We need a crew that can do all that crap.
Morning.
right.
Good morning.
Danny, producer, is here. Danny, how you doing, man?
Good, good. How are you guys?
Doing good. So we were just talking about musicians and how they, you know, all the stuff that they have to do before, during, and after, right? And picking up the heavy stuff. And so what I was trying to say, Danny, is that as fucked up as our production is, at least you're not lifting like big ass speakers, is what I'm
Yep,
saying.
yep. That's
Yeah,
what roadies are
Scott's
for.
not impressed. Yeah, that's you just Scott was just saying. That's why you need to have someone to lift up. Danny Livas agreed to be producer for the program. Danny, thank you so much. Very, very happy to have you on board. Really appreciate it. We need the help. And so,
Great, great.
I hope that the trailer that we got you and the weekly salary of megabucks that we're giving you is not going to go to your head. You really negotiated a hard deal there, but I'm happy for you and your brand new Lexus.
Thank you, thank you. The Lexus is nice. I like the seat warmers.
Hey, we do the best we can here at Grande
Yeah.
Avenue.
I
All right,
wish it
so
had a cappuccino machine, but
so we're trying to figure out this system here. Apparently, on Riverside, Danny could do production stuff. He could do the researching for us. He could do, help us on the end. And once we grow up a little bit, we bring in images and video and all kinds of stuff. But in the meantime, we're kind of still learning the bells and whistles. So, Danny, feel free to jump in as Scott and I talk some shit, and look smart. You see the books in the back, so obviously, Danny, you got to put a book in the back, bro. That's if you're not a podcaster, if you don't put books in the back, man.
all right.
So you're saying it's your intellectual dominance of the podcast world is what that is. So, anyways,
Right.
so let's get started. So here's some things that we want to cover. It is May 18th, 2025, as we're recording here. And so a few things we want to start as we kind of have kind of a system here, Scott, right? Like where we want to start internationally, talk about international politics, and then fly down back to the U.S. and talk about the national politics, land in D.C., cover some things there, and then bring it home to Tucson, Arizona. So the things we want to talk about, obviously we want to talk about what's going on in Gaza and the latest there. That would be the first block. And then we're going to fly back into the national front. I want to talk about the Grok phenomena and Elon Musk and his use of artificial intelligence and how that backfired. And then we want to talk about David Hogg. And Scott broke the news to me that he finally was taken off, or was kicked off as the role as vice president for the Democratic National Committee. I want to talk about that. And then we want to talk about the final block will be the local races that are going on here. So that's where we're at, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I had to
Groove?
turn off my AC. It was making too much noise. I was having a hard time hearing you guys.
Well, we don't want you to have a freaking meltdown over there either. So
We're good.
we're good. You're good. Okay.
Yep, yep.
that needs tougher than you think. So, all right, right here, of the three of us, I would get my ass kicked. I would say, hey guys, please take care of the two guys in the alley. All right, so let's start. So Gaza. So Scott, what are your thoughts? Where are we at? What's
Well,
going on?
I'm just reading this morning's news. It says at least 135 people were killed on Sunday morning, including 42 in the heavily bombed northern parts of Gaza. Medical sources say 5 journalists were among the victims when the homes were bombed. At least 464 Palestinians have been killed in the past week as the Israeli military prepares to significantly intensify its ground invasion of Palestinian territory. Despite international criticism, at least 53,000 Palestinians have been killed, although we know that that's greatly undercounted, and 121,000 have been wounded since the start of the war. This is probably the moral question of our generation, of our time right now. Um, I have Irish. I'm an Irish American, and most Irish Americans who have any sense of their history are aware of the potato famine, a forced famine by the British colonialists, that people starved while Ireland had bumper crops of food and cattle and everything else. It was a forced attempt at exterminating the Irish people, and they did a pretty good job. Millions of people starved to death. We're seeing the same thing in Gaza now, which is probably why the Irish of all the Europeans have the strongest support for the Palestinian cause. And it's it's an issue that I think we're looking at a congressional race here with the death of Raul Grijalva, and I think the question of Gaza has to be presented to each one of them. Do you consider it a genocide, a mass murder? What is your position in regard to Gaza? And if they fumble around and they say, well, Israel has a right to defend itself, and all these ridiculous comments that are made for the apologists, we know that our political system is dominated by the Israeli lobby, and if our politicians can't stand up to that and do what's right, both for our country and what's morally right for the world, I'd say do not support any of these politicians, no matter who gets in there. They should not be rewarded if they don't have the morality to speak out against this genocide, which, after all, we are paying for, we are supporting. We are, Netanyahu comes to the Congress, and Democrats and Republicans stand up and give him rousing ovations, more than anyone in the Congress, and it's a really disgusting situation. So that's where I am in terms of international issues. That is the international issue, and if people can't see that, that's unfortunate, because I think it's a real moral black spot on our nation's consciousness.
It is the Vietnam of our time, for sure. And it's not. What's interesting is that it's not just rhetoric. It's not just a bunch of lefties that are concerned about this, and in fact, it has real political ramifications. The outcome, the politician's position on it. You can actually win or lose elections, uh, uh, depending on what your position is. And so my thinking is that so I think that there's, like we talked about before, Scott. There is the moral reasons to speak up about Gaza, and then there's the political, cold reality, selfish reasons to speak up for the people in Palestine, right? And both are valid. And so if you're a cold-hearted, calculating politician, you still have motivation to take a good, a solid position in support of the Palestinians. And so what I'm thinking is going to be interesting to see how these local races not just here in Tucson, but nationally, any special elections that may happen, where we might be able to gather some data, depending on how any kind of Zionist Democrats run compared to you know uh, young people or anyone challenging them with a better position or view on this question of the Middle East. So who knows what will happen. But I do think that we are now starting to see. We already saw data from the Kamala race, and there's been, we talked about that last time, how definitely her lack of a stronger advocacy hurt her election. Was it the factor? Maybe, maybe not, right? But did it play a role? Absolutely, it did. So the races, current races, and the data that we get from that, from the people that, depending on what their position is, going to be valuable moving forward, right?
Well, yeah, and I think part of the problem, motivation, whatever motivates people to run for office. The problem, really, for our country is when the Supreme Court issued in Citizens United, which basically allowed anyone with money to pump money into these elections, and of course, opportunists like AIPAC, the American Israeli PAC, and other Israeli lobby groups. They said, well, we get all these millions and millions from the U.S. Let's use the millions and millions we got from the U.S. to influence U.S. elections to keep those millions coming. So whoever runs is going to be faced. Whoever runs who has a conscience and who speaks up about the atrocities being committed in Gaza and the West Bank, by the way, are going to be facing people with tons of money. And Miguel, from your last race with city council how much money came in from outside the city of Tucson
Right.
to knock you out, and it was a very direct effort to make sure that they flooded the Ward 1 council race with money, to make sure you didn't get elected. I think we're going to see the same thing going on all over the place. So the problem is money in politics. As long as we don't have publicly financed elections where there's a level playing field, where people can debate the issues and people could listen to what the different views are without being inundated with propaganda from one side or the other, I think we're going to continue to have this problem.
Yeah, we live in kind of interesting times right now. I've been listening to some of the podcasts. Some of my favorite ones, Bad Has Bara, they have to do a great, job of, finding the humor and satire and laugh while you cry, and so
Who's that,
on.
Miguel? Who are you talking about?
Bad Has Bara, Bad Has Bara
Okay.
is with Mate. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
Danny. Hey.
Aaron
Huh?
Mate?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's
Yeah. It's
great.
Bad Has Bara. Yeah. So they do a really good job because the guy's a comedian, right? The main podcaster is a comedian, and then the Mate guy is the brother of the other Mate on Useful Idiots,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
I know
so
that.
yeah, super smart guys and whatever. And they talk. They often talk. They have a lot of great guests, and they use humor and satire and a lot of sarcasm because it's a tough thing to go through, right? And so people have to find a way to vent. Anyways, my point is that they've talked a little bit about how we're living kind of in a weird situation right now with the Middle East, in that we there's this wild card with orange hair and an orange face, right, in the White House. And as much as he's a despicable guy, he's a disruptor. And his disruption approaches and strategies come from the business world of being a tyrant, asshole capitalist. But it's in his blood, disrupting. So sometimes in politics, especially when it comes to dealing with establishment and APAC and all these lobbies, sometimes disruption is a good thing, especially when Democrats have been fucking it up for decades, right? Especially with Biden here recently. If it takes a Republican racist orange asshole in the White House to disrupt things and maybe to the benefit of the Palestinians, I'm all for it, right? Because we got to have this genocide stop, right? And so there is this kind of optimistic feeling of like, well, maybe he'll disrupt something, and hey, weird, crazier things have happened. Maybe the way that Trump is kind of negotiating, and maybe his selfish interests and the way he's going about it may mistakenly create an outcome where the Palestinians benefit from it, right?
Well,
Or go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's a very false sense of optimism.
Okay.
Um, if by chance something that Trump does by chance relieves some of the suffering of the Palestinians, that's just by chance. I mean, don't forget what Trump wants to do. He wanted to he turned Gaza into the Las Vegas of the Middle East. I mean, he has no sympathy. Remember, he called Schumer a Palestinian, as if that's some kind of ethnic disparaging. So I don't trust anything Trump does. If by chance something
Right.
happens, I mean, he supposedly he just negotiated the release of this Israeli American IDF soldier,
Right.
and supposedly he did it without Netanyahu's approval.
Right.
Um, and so, in that sense, I mean, I guess it's good that this one prisoner of war was released. But what about all the other ones? What about the hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians that are being tortured right now? I mean, Trump doesn't give a damn about Palestine. So I don't I understand where people also very very hopeful that Trump was going to end the war in Ukraine the first 24 hours. Sounds good. What's happened since? The war continues, just as the war continues in Gaza. Um, so yes, he apparently cut a deal with Ansar Allah, what they call the Houthis. I think Trump thinks it's Houthi and the Blowfish, but
Right. Right.
he, he,
Right.
he cut a deal, and so that supposedly they're not going to be bombing American ships anymore, and the U.S. won't be bombing Yemen anymore. I guess that's progress, but
Hmm.
The war in Gaza continues. The mass murder of people continue, and that hasn't changed yet. So I understand where people think, oh, here's one thing where maybe Trump is doing some good, but the overall picture is not a good one, and certainly the overall picture for our own country and our constitutional rights, where people are being arrested and deported just for writing an editorial that this administration doesn't like. The outlook is not good. I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but I don't see many positive things going on right now, other than the mass demonstrations that have been happening, other than the amount of people who are coming out for Bernie Sanders and AOC, and the young people who realize that their future is really in doubt with the present way that we're going. There's always some hope, but it's pretty slim. And you look at the Democratic Party and you just wonder what lessons have they learned. I mean, they're at an all-time low in terms of popularity, including among their own members. And
Right.
so, I look at it and just go, there needs to be some very radical change before I can feel much hope. But I do have hope when I see so many young people and their activism. That's a positive thing.
Yeah.
If I can interrupt for
Go
a
ahead.
sec, I
Go ahead.
just for Scott and for our viewers who are wondering, Bad Hasbara is BAD. First word Hasbara is HASBARA, and it's billed as the world's most moral podcast, a comedy
Right.
podcast
Sarcastically.
about the latest and greatest in U.S. and Israeli propaganda. It's
Right.
available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys do a great, great job, and I guess Hezbollah is supposed to be the propaganda that Israel puts out. So they're very tongue-in-cheek, very super sarcastic, and love that show, man. Really, really love that show.
Well, the
Um,
other great show, we talk about shows,
yeah,
Useful Idiots. You mentioned Adam
yes,
Mate and Katie
yes,
Halpert. Useful Idiots is a great show to watch, and there's
yeah,
there's some humor in there as well. And
yeah. They're super
uh,
sarcastic.
just to put another plug in, Glenn Greenwald has an amazing show. It's a
Yeah.
daily show, and highly recommend those two, Useful Idiots and Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah. 90% of the shows that I enjoy, not just because of their great the information that they provide on the Middle East, but also just all the lefty, information and guests and all and the content. But 90%, but also because of that, 90% of the hosts are Jewish, and so once again, the Jewish community is leading when it comes to issues of our time, just like in the civil rights movement, just like during the most recent, the war in Iraq, it's been my experience, that my Jewish brothers and sisters in my own life, and also just in general, have consistently been at the forefront of good, solid, progressive, positions. And right now, it's kind of an uncomfortable thing because the Israeli government just like is fucking it up, just like the Mexican government was fucking it up with the Zapatistas, right? And so, but for whatever reason, when you talk, when you want to hold the Israeli government accountable, you're deemed an anti-Semite, right?
And if,
Whereas,
and if you're Jewish, you're deemed a self-hating Jew.
right, yeah,
So, as
it's
a matter of fact,
crazy,
speaking of Jewish things, all the people that I just mentioned, Aaron Mate, Katie Halper, and Glenn Greenwald, are all Jewish.
yep,
And I have to say that
beautiful,
the pro-Palestinian demonstrations that I've gone to at the university and elsewhere in Tucson, there are always very prominent Jewish students getting up and speaking. So this whole thing that uh, that you're an anti-Semite. I mean, of course, this is the Israeli plan. The plan is to say anyone that criticizes Israel is an anti-Semite because they try to
right,
equate Jewishness with Israeli policies, which actually could lead to more anti-Semitism in the world.
ironically, right, yeah, which reinforces the fact that the Israeli government doesn't give a shit about you.
Right.
Netanyahu just wants to stay in power. He doesn't want
Right.
to. He
They
doesn't
don't even
care
give a
about the
shit about their own
hostages.
people. They don't care
No,
about the
man.
hostages. They don't care if the hostages are killed. They
Right.
don't care. Netanyahu wants to stay out of jail. He'll keep the war on
That's
indefinitely.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So back to the optimism versus the pessimism thing. I'll take the more optimistic hat, while Scott takes the more pessimistic hat. I'll play the role of more optimistic hat, only because it shit is getting to the point where it can't get any worse. I mean, what Netanyahu is doing is sending in so many of the troops that they're literally looking at just completely obliterating everything and completely ethnic cleansing, the entire, spot of Gaza. So how much worse can it actually get? So my thinking is that with the orange, orangutan, um, disruption is almost kind of a good thing. Now, to
Well,
your point,
I got it. I really have to. I really have to.
I'm
You
not
know,
cheerleading him, but go
yeah.
ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
I just
Talk to me.
I don't share your optimism. That's okay.
Talk to me. No, I know.
Well,
No,
yeah.
and
You say it's so bad. Could it get worse? Yes, we've learned that it always can get worse. As bad as
right,
we think it is, the Trumpites will find something, to make it worse. I mean, look at
right,
the immigration policy. Look at his tariffs. I mean, you can go through a whole list of what just in the last couple of months since he's been in power, the
right,
shock and awe that they've gone against our Constitution and our rights is
right.
pretty amazing. So, but yes, go
Yeah.
on, convince me of
Well,
your
well, I'm
positivity.
what I'm saying is that the cards we have are the cards we have, right? I mean, short of protest, we got to keep protesting. We got to keep holding elected officials accountable. Those that those that receive lobby money, right, from APAC need to be exposed. We need to, be more assertive in direct action. We need to do all those things that we are doing, that young people are doing. Can we do more? Absolutely, we could do more. but that lane is filled already, right? If we were talking strategically as far as winning politically, that part is running on all cylinders already. Make sense? You know what I mean? So we could be creative or whatever, but I really do feel that we're engaged. We can continue to be engaged, and folks are on that, right? And so I don't know about you, but for me, I'm not taking a leadership role in that. But if I see an email or if I see a call and say, hey, we need some bodies here at the U of A, we're having a protest, I'll be there, right? Me to make a few calls, yeah, I'll, within the capacity of what I'm doing, I will engage in that front. But young people are taking a leadership role. They got that part, right? So what I'm saying strategically, there's the other part. You know how we talk about the conservatives, that we don't necessarily, agree with politically, but they're disrupting. And the way I see it, I welcome it. Let's disrupt shit in that area. You know what I mean? Will it? Because is it going to provide some opportunities? Mix things up. Okay, Hamas, right? For example, that deal that with that American hostage that was released, unfortunately, to reinforce what you said, they're already backing out of the handshake deal that they had. Apparently, what happened was when they released him, what was sad promised to them was, we will go ahead and within a couple of days bring in trucks full of food. We will start to bring talks back to with Netanyahu for a ceasefire and a couple other concessions, whatever, right? And so he's already kind of backtracking on that. So that reinforces your thing, but there was an attempt. There was a weird kind of like the Trump administration looking like they're going to save the day or whatever. It's like, to me, it's like, those are cards that you're dealt. Frickin' play them.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I'll say in terms of your positive position here, your optimism.
I
There are,
mean, to an extent.
to an extent, I understand.
Right.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Everything's relative.
Right. Right.
But you can see on the right wing of the country also starting to question. I mean, I've been really
Yeah.
impressed.
Yes.
I could not, for years, I could not stand Tucker Carlson. It was like I would just see him and I'd throw up in my mouth. And now he's doing amazing interviews. He did the interview with the head of the Teamsters. He did the interview with Putin. He did interview with all kinds of people that you would never expect to see when he was operating under Fox News, the state media agency. So you'll see people like Tucker Carlson and that debate that was on Joe Rogan with Dave Smith and that British bastard. What's his name? Murray.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
he shouldn't have an Irish name, frankly. It's kind of insulting, uh, but anyway, I mean, stuff like that. That does give me hope when I see people who Candace Owens is another one.
Right.
You see these hardcore right wingers
Right.
saying, "Wait a second, something's wrong here," and once they look into it, it's like, killing babies might just be wrong.
Yeah, and
So
just to jump in, just for the audience to support where Scott's going here, we don't like these people. These people are right-wing nutcases in most cases. They're capitalist, opportunist assholes, right?
right,
But the Democrats have their own
oh yeah,
capitalist assholes that have dropped the ball on Gaza for decades.
yes,
So when you have a group of assholes that you hate, and a group of assholes are disloyal, and they're supposed to be your friends that don't have your back, sometimes these assholes that you hate create opportunities to get something. And
yeah,
so that's what we're saying. So because it's because the Democrats always pull that shit. They're gonna say, "Oh, did you see Scott and Miguel talking all lovey-dovey about Candace Owen?" No, man, we don't like Candace Owen. Her position on some shit is horrible. Some of her anti-Semitic rhetoric, some of her like bullshit Christian nationalist shit. We're not for that. But is she right on Palestine? Yes, and that should embarrass the fuck out of the Democrats. They're not doing anything, right?
it's really nice to see contradictions on the other side instead
Right.
of always on our side.
Yeah. I mean, Danny, here's a perfect a place to bring Danny in here. It's like this, and Danny's the kind of progressive who is ain't afraid of like to defend himself, shall we say, and is trained in the area of defending himself through all kinds of technology and defense art, shall we say, right? So here's the thing that I think that Danny could speak on. If I'm getting if there's two guys in the dark alley that are kicking my ass, right? And I'm doing everything I can, to defend myself, right? And one guy's got me, and this is it, man. I'm done. Do you think I'm not? It's below me to bite, kick, the guy in the balls, grab some kind of something to defend myself? You're gonna do whatever that you can, including exploring all options and opportunities and smoke and mirrors to survive. And so that's where I see now with the question of Palestine is that, any opportunities that we can see, right? Whether it's, if now we have these right wingers that are starting to say, I don't care if they don't love, maybe it's not because they love Palestinians. Some might even be anti-Semitic, right? I mean, and so we can't control their moral view of the world. But if they're, for example, taking a position for Palestine simply because they don't want billions of dollars to continue to go to another country, and they have this American first rhetoric, and that benefits the Palestinians, I welcome it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You hear what I'm saying, Danny, with using the elbows theory?
Yeah, and that's just it. Is that, I mean, the techniques or the strategy that I use when in a situation like you were talking about, one on one, there's reason to hold back and to be reserved. But when you're overwhelmed with more than one opponent, there's a flip that you have to switch. Most of us have a passiveness in us that won't allow us to do the violence that we need to in order to defend ourselves so that we make sure that we go home. When you learn to flip that switch, the violence that is necessary to be able to defend yourself so that you do end up victorious can involve exactly like you said, Miguel, biting somebody in the throat, bite them in the jugular, poke them in the eye. There's different things like that. But I guess what I'm trying to get at in this is that my specialty is de-escalation. I've been doing, how do I put this, protective services since I was 18 years old. I'm 55 now. I've only pulled my weapon twice on somebody, and I've never had to discharge it.
Right.
I am very skilled at negotiating, at listening, and because I try to stay neutral and I try to put myself in the other person's shoes. This doesn't exactly fit, but we do have to look at the situation from all angles and understand, because I mean, the reason that these people are so passionate about what they're doing is because it means something and it affects them directly. So, you have these two different races of people that believe that they're right, and it's in their upbringing, their religious backgrounds. It's in their fiber. It's how they were born and built. And we have to find a way to reconstruct that thinking. And I don't have all the answers, but I can see clearly what needs to happen. We need to find common ground and then start from there. I don't know how this applies. You guys are the scholars. You're the ones who, that have all the knowledge and the studying it. For me, I can hardly remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday. Like, you guys are able to
Scott may
throw out
have
names of
gone.
the politicians. I can't remember their names. I just know what they look like and that I can't stand them.
Scott may have, somewhere been like going to night school and got his PhD, but not me. I ain't no scholar.
Yeah.
So to wrap this up, as far as next steps, thank you, Danny. I guess, what do we see as far as next steps? I mean, the kids are graduating now. I don't know if you've been watching some of the ceremonies, Scott, but there's been some, great, young people stepping out. There's one kid's degree was taken away because of his speech supporting Palestine. This whole continuing like cracking down on free speech is still continues to go on, but young people are continue to be brave moving forward. But what do you think in the short term, in the next couple of weeks, the next month or so? What do you see as far as for
Well,
the
you
question
know,
of
I mean, I
question?
think we're doing something here that the more that they attack our First Amendment rights, the more that they attack free speech, the best way to counter that is to speak more, which is what we're trying to do here. Is to put our voices up about what's going on around, because we are in a very dangerous time right now. It's there's an assault on journalism. There's an assault on education, and these these deportations of people, even people who are here legally with green cards who've lived here for years and years. What was the German Reverend Nietmuller, was that his name? Where he said first they came for the communists, I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, I wasn't a Jew. However it goes, all the way to the end where when they came for me, there was no one around. Well, they're coming for people now, but they could be coming for us. In fact, when Trump is pushing this thing that even native-born Americans should be able to be deported. I mean, if that isn't a threat to every American, whether you're here legally or you were born here or your family's been here for generations, to give the government the right to strip you of your citizenship and deport you is really dangerous. And the last time that was done was around the turn of the century in the early 1900s, when they got rid of communists, anarchists, socialists, unionists, anyone that they didn't like, with the Alien Act, which is what they're using now to get rid of people that they don't like. So yeah, there's a real threat in terms of what can be done. I mean, I think what you're right, the students demonstrating and so forth, but ultimately, because I'm basically a syndicalist at heart, not a cynicist, syndicalist, is that the unions, the organized labor, um, they're really important in this front. I mean, if this if the assault on our Constitution continues, it's really going to be up to dock workers and teamsters and electrical workers and others to say, you know what, you've gone too far. You got to back off, or we're going to close down everything. And that ultimately is the only power what we of the people have, is to deny the use of our labor for this machine. Ultimately, that's all we have left, is to say, no, we're not going to participate anymore. Uh, that's how I see it. So that's why I'm very supportive of union movements. I think putting power into the hands of the workers is what we should be striving for. I am not a communist, but I am very pro worker, and I do believe that the only war that's justified, is the class war.
Right. Yeah, and kind of following along the approach that you just took um, regarding unions, union organizing has a very pragmatic side to it, right?
Sure.
When it comes down to it, when you are organizing under the banner of uh, labor, goals, that really has a very pragmatic side to it, in that you're talking about just your basic, can I have enough pay and come home safely from working conditions that are proper, to join my family, provide the food on the table, provide educational opportunities, the basics, right? And so when it comes to labor organizing, we folks reach out to everyone, and they talk in that pragmatic sense. Do you want a better life? Do you just want to punch in, put in your time, get paid a fair wage, go home to your family, and work with dignity, get paid, get health care, and that kind of stuff? So when those things start to get attacked, and you make the case for why it is those things are being attacked, why it is that your worker, your opportunity as a worker begin to diminish. That's when you create space to make the connection as to why it is that that's happening. And then you can talk about the things, the international things, like for example, billions of dollars are going to Israel. Israelis have better healthcare. They have healthcare. You do not, right? Free education. You do not, right?
But
So
we're paying for it. The
we
American
are paying for
taxpayer
it.
are paying for all of that.
Yes,
We don't
yes,
have it for ourselves, but we'll do it for them. Just
right,
like the boycott laws that they have now,
right,
including the one that Alma Hernandez pushed through the legislature, saying that
right.
anyone that has a contract with the state of Arizona, you cannot participate in a boycott of Israel. You could boycott America. You could boycott Arizona. You could boycott, the Vatican. But
You could
no, no,
boycott
no, you can't
catechism.
boycott Israel, because if you boycott Israel, we will cut off your contract. I
You
mean,
could
talk
boycott the
about
Boy Scouts.
undemocratic bullshit.
You could boycott the Pope, Boy
Exactly.
Scouts. You could
Sure.
boycott,
But
my
not
God,
Israel. Not
but not
Israel.
Israel. You can't boycott Israel. That's insane.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely, Scott. I hear what you're saying, and again, that goes back to the opportunities. Is that when you start having the normies make that connection, just the working folks that are just basically just trying to make ends meet, and you make that case. I mean, if you go at them, and just start talking about, hey man, Nakba and then the United Nations and how the war and the Palestinians and so on, that might not completely register. Average Joe does never seen or had a beer with a Palestinian. They don't know what is a Palestinian, right? But if you start talking about them about like why you don't have health care, why you are about to lose your job, is because the U.S. government is not prioritizing you. It's prioritizing a foreign government. They're getting billions of dollars, and if there's families in Israel who are benefiting from your tax money, right, while you're struggling, then that creates an opportunity. And where's that money going? It's going to drop bombs on kids. Well, that sucks.
And you know who made a
Yeah.
statement very similar to what you just said just recently?
Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's and what a way to wrap this up. Opportunity, right?
Yeah, America
Margie
first.
Taylor Greene. Would you have a beer with Margie Taylor Greene?
I think I would.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't.
I would.
But my point being is
I could
that
drink her under the table.
yeah, I mean, see, now you're more of an optimist than you're saying there. You're more open to like all this lovey-dovey shit.
No, I just like drinking.
What's that?
I said, no, I just like drinking.
You're just in it for the free beer?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
I could respect
Yeah,
that.
she's
I can
paid.
respect that.
Paid.
Huh? She's paid. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, she's paid. Yeah, well, very good. Okay, well, here's to opportunities. Here's to a cold cynicism. Here's to a free Palestine.